Jenkins.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Hardin. McKinley. Testori.
Here.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A couple points of order here real quick. First off, I have several public comments for the Prairie Ridge subdivision, but I don't have the name of the representative who will be speaking during the presentation. Do we have that individual's name? Stephanie? Okay, so she's not a public comment, she's a presenter. We obviously have quite a few people here tonight, and I think that that is an awesome thing. It really shows how passionate the citizens of Farmer City are towards Farmer City, and I applaud every one of you for attending this evening. Before we go, to keep our meeting moving in an orderly manner, and obviously we have several presentations and quite a few public comments, I just want to kind of lay down a few things real quick. First off, by resolution, public comments, those of you who filled out these sheets right here, are limited to 5 minutes. And I will be keeping time. You are free to ask questions to the council. Understand, according to the Illinois Handbook, we're not obligated to answer. You will find the City Council does answer, though. However, if you're asking questions, it still will not take away, you don't get to add minutes to your time. So if I speak for 4 minutes, you lost 4 minutes of your time. Second, we have 3 presenters this evening. We're going to give them 10 minutes today. I mean, they filled out the paperwork, and obviously they've been working on their presentation as well. You don't have to use all 10 minutes, but you will be timed for 10 minutes. And again, if you wish to discuss or have conversation with the City Council, feel free to do so. Understand that your time is also 10 minutes, regardless of the fact. So I encourage you to make your points first and foremost. To ensure that our presenters have ample time to present their case, I would request that the City Council hold all questions, unless it's a question of clarification, until the end of each presentation. We may have quite a few questions. It won't add to anyone's time or anything like that, but we want to make sure that we clearly hear the public. So with that, I will go in order of presenters as I have on this evening's agenda, and then I will go in order to our public comments by which they were submitted. So, Scott Kelly, you have the floor if you wish to be on video, and I encourage you to be so that the citizens who could not make it into this room can see you. I would appreciate it if you stand by the door.
Sure. Okay, I'm here to represent the primitive tent camping that we're trying to establish out of South Park. I do have some information for you guys if you'd like it. It do contains a map and some other information. We'd like to do this out here to help create something for the public to use. It would allow groups also from town, church groups, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, youth groups, 4-H, and mentoring groups to use. Currently, it's not being used as anything. There was pretty much abandoned trails back there, which we've cleaned up. I'd like to talk about how this project's being funded. So far, it's being funded by the volunteers. Taxpayers have no money in this as we speak. We've taken donations from several businesses as far as getting picnic tables lined up, fire pits, the brickwork for those, and then the rest of the stuff is just volunteered. We have a tree service coming in to help clean up some of these areas. We will only be taking dead trees. We're not going to be turning over any dirt or anything like that. Our objective out here is to help clean this up, make it usable to the public, And we'd like to be able to assign groups of people that are volunteering to help clean these areas up every so often. We'd like to set up 24 tent sites out there. And then we'd like 2 of those to be handicap accessible, which we believe they are. I'd like to point out some of the strengths of this. Having a campsite at this park will not only allow the local community to have a place to get away from the everyday living, but it'll also allow people to visit our town and to stay at another place, or have another place to stay. We have a local BMX track at this facility, which they could use while they're there, along with soccer and baseball tournaments, which we host, and that would give them a place to stay also. It also offers a great walking trail that's approximately a half-mile loop from the beginning where you come in to the loop where you come back. We've already set up some work plans. We'd like to get started this weekend, November 7th and 8th, with the second weekend of November 14th and 15th. We have approximately 40 volunteers volunteering their time and their equipment to prepare these sites. We're hoping to have 8 to 10 sites done per session, and we'll work those until they're done. Our goals as volunteers are to help make this place useful to the public, park visitors, and anybody that would like to camp there. I'd like to say thanks to some of the people that showed up tonight to help support us. The donations have been coming in, which are great. It helps us get this project rolling. And it's just nice to see our parks being used more. On some of the maps that I've got, you'll see the yellow trail. If you'll turn to the right, you'll spin it this way, like this. The yellow trail has been there approximately 25 to 30 years. Originally, that was a snowmobile trail, and it was later converted into a walking trail. The white circles in here are potential campsites. Some of these are going to need moved or just scooted over. It just depends on the terrain that's in there. We have most of these already flagged that are level, and we think they're great spots. You'll see the dotted yellow lines are where we'd like to make a trail going from one side to the other or to other campsites. The green box in the back, we've kind of left that as a Eagle Scout project if they choose to do something down the road. Possibly a pavilion or something like that. I know we've got two scouts in town that are looking for their Eagle Scout badges. We think that'd be a great opportunity for them. If you flip to the next page, I talked to the fire marshal, checking on open burnings, and they said there's no restriction on burnings on private ground so long as it's used for a campfire or cooking fire. We've covered those. If you'll flip to the next page with the IDPH, there is a permit that's needed, which is going to be taken care of, and it's just an inspection. They come to you and inspect it after it's built, and then they'll sign off on your yearly permit. I believe that's all I have. If you guys have any questions.
Does the council have any questions? Will you be staying for the entire meeting? I have the reason why I'm asking is because I have a few questions that I'll probably direct towards the city manager.
Sure.
If you would like to, this will be under non-agenda items. I will allow you the opportunity if you have an idea.
Sure.
On the answer to that, but because it's really going to relate to expenses. So you said, as of right now, correct, there's no expenses to the taxpayer.
No.
Okay, so very good.
That's my question, is over the long term, who owns this when the volunteers fade away?
What do you mean volunteers fade away?
Well, the volunteers are plentiful now, but in 5-10 years, they may not be. It resorts back to the city.
It is the city's property.
It is the city,
It's the city's property.
it'll be the city's property.
Well, it resorts back to the city
That's
to
where,
maintain it.
that's where I think that we should have at least several questions towards the city manager, because
Okay.
I really think that there are, although, and there are no expenses going in,
I understand.
as we saw with the park, there are quite a few expenses long-term. And it's not necessarily a red flag, but I'd like to know, what are our thoughts on that prior, so,
Well, it's currently not being maintained as it sits, so.
absolutely.
Right.
There was a list of rules on the back that I threw in there. Everybody should have one. It's your basic list of rules that all primitive tent camp parks have. You guys can, if you have any questions on that, it's in there. They're all basic.
Very good. Sir, I appreciate the work that you've done on this, and look forward to you continue working in this community. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you for your
Very
time.
good. Our next presenter is Mindy. You have the floor, and we also have a packet that you've given us. Start your time.
Okay, I made a packet for all of you, or I should say Sandy was kind enough to print it off.
Yes.
In it is the rules and regulations from the health department and the DNR. Some of them may pertain to you, some of them may not. But I want to remind all of you guys sitting here and the city manager that if you put a campground out here, you guys are liable for what's going on. It's a really good idea to read these, see if you need, what rules you need to pass. I also talked to the DNR, and one of the big problems with primitive campsites and with not having regulations is the homeless people moving into them. So it's something you guys might really want to think about. The other thing I did is made some pictures. You can pass them around. There's a picture of the property marker. So there's property markers we own partway back into that woods. So everybody has to be aware of where the property lines are. I think Mr. Bilta also owns partway into the woods. There is honeysuckle out there. It's an invasive plant, and if not treated after it's cutting, it'll spread and multiply even more. Do your volunteers know the process involved to kill this invasive plant? It's taking over the woods. As a matter of fact, before I came up here on Channel 3 News, Shelbyville's forest is so full of invasive honeysuckle bush that they're going to do aerial spraying November 11th. This woods is so full of it, there's places you can't even walk through. You also have multiflora rose and teasel. I'm trying to find out if teasel is a noxious weed, which is covered under the state of Illinois, but you have to get rid of it, and what honeysuckle is. And you can go to the state's list, but also each county has a list of what's noxious and what's invasive. So if you can look at those and spread them around. Also, what kind of insurance does the city have for its volunteer workers? There are a lot of widowmaker trees back there that have been pushed over into the woods by a previous landowner. Those are very dangerous. Around your dump, the trees have been dug underneath. Those are leaning. That's a big liability for you guys. You better find out what kind of insurance you have before people go out there and work. And I know there's no alcohol sign, but guess what, guys? There's alcohol out there. Here are pictures of litter of alcohol cans and bottles. Previously, this woods was absolutely full of kids going back in it and drinking and doing other recreational activities. I went out there for years, every single day, and I'd find 12 packs and 24 packs of beer hidden throughout that woods so kids could go pick it up. How are you going to patrol that? How are you going to control it if it's more open? Also the garbage through the woods in our property. Pictures of trash. It's pretty thick. We have one field we cannot even use for anything. If we wanted to use it for hay, we couldn't feed it to anything because the amount of trash we're getting from South Park. will this problem multiply for us? Also, another little issue. I have a letter from Terry Emerson. We were out at South Park for an evening soccer game with a Bloomington team. Someone walking in happened to look up and spotted a bald eagle soaring above. Everyone was so thrilled to have the opportunity to see such beauty. There is a pair of bald eagles back in that woods. They fly over Salt Creek, Trinkle Slough, from South Park and across Trinkle Slough to the woods behind Deltas. That would be a horrible thing to lose if we destroy their environment. Other wildlife out there is deer, red fox, coyote, a possible wolf sighting which was reported to the DNR. There's a breeding pack of wolves in South Beloit. Their range is 500 miles to find new sites. Woodcock, great horned owls, pair of bald eagles, other owls, and various types of hawks. Maintaining the environment for wildlife is very important. You could work with the DNR on that. I'm sure they would help you. I think that why not make a nature trail? You could get, there's one small flat spot in this wood. It's next to what everybody thinks is the pond. The pond is a slurry pit from an old brickyard that was there. There's only water in it when it floods. There's a very flat area next to that. Why not make it into a camping area for Boy Scouts, Brownies, Girl Scouts, and things like that, and make a nature preserve out of the rest of that woods, and teach people about wildlife and nature. I think that would be an awesome thing to do. I also, in your packet, is an article on bush honeysuckle control, and IDNR Forester, his contact number. If you're planning on cleaning up that woods, why not do it right? Contact this guy and get help, because that woods is really a mess. A previous city administrator, I talked to the DNR a long time ago and asked him, what can we do for this woods? And he told me what needed to be done. I went to the then city manager. Nothing has been done, and now it's nothing but a grown over mess. When you cut honeysuckle, it'll just proliferate even more. You have to put straight Roundup on the trunks where you cut it, or it'll be worse than it is now. Any questions? So all the information about all this is in your packet.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions, Mindy?
These are ours to keep.
Those are your, yeah, you guys can keep these. I only have one set of those.
Yeah,
You can pass them
I'll give them
around.
to Sandy.
The other stuff that I printed off is yours to keep, and it has the information maybe to give you ideas to protect yourself in the city from any liability issues with things going on out at that park. I think that's really important for everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Our next presenter tonight is Stephanie. You have the floor.
I'm here. A lot of the residents from Prairie Ridge are here just for clarification. We in Prairie Ridge are pro-growth and pro-expansion of Farmer City and the neighborhood. We feel there are far greater needs to be addressed and better uses of the taxpayers' money than sidewalks to nowhere that nobody wants at this time. We don't understand the urgency to spend $23,000 to survey for sidewalks that, for all reasoning, appear to be needed only after significant growth has occurred. If the significant growth has occurred, we would be for the sidewalks at that time. If the intent is to use TIF money to make Prairie Ridge more appealing for growth, the money would be better spent on these items that are inhibiting growth right now. The drainage. It's important to address the field runoff. Crawl spaces have to be pumped out regularly. Water runs over the curbs because at times the water table can be higher than the street level. The other drainage issue is the unmanaged catch basin. Not only does the appearance create a bad impression, but the lack of maintenance has created a health concern. Attraction and maintenance, an attractive eye-catching entrance sign to the subdivision would help market not only the neighborhood but the city also. The acreage gained simply by grading and mowing the catch basin could be a play area for families. The area could be a nice area to plant some trees also. Utilities and service, water quality must be improved. Considering the high property taxes and utility rates, we would really like to have fresh water that comes out of the faucet. So those are our concerns at this time. We do have a petition that people have signed in our neighborhood.
Very good. May I have your list as well? Thank you very much. I appreciate your speaking to us tonight, Stephanie. Are there any questions?
You said the catch basin, I was trying to follow on the catch basin, that's where the water collects, and you said possibly make that a playground area or something?
Yeah, if you graded it or something
So
and mowed it so that it would drain.
Oh, so it would drain, so it wouldn't retain water?
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
I got you. I don't know, what was your name?
Brian Russell.
Brian Russell.
Very good. Any other questions?
Rush, R-A-U-S-C-H.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for speaking with us this evening. We have 7 public comments, should be limited to 5 minutes. The first public comment will be Mitch Gardner. Sir, you have the floor. If you'd like to be in front of the camera, just step by the door.
No thanks. I also have some questions about the campground. Obviously the liability of not only this weekend, but in the future if it ever gets out of hand. Perhaps, absolutely not a mistake, but somebody falls asleep with a big fire going or something. I know that the crops go right up to the edge. The conservation ground that we have, the fire break's not always mowed, so that's a possibility. Also, the maintenance and cleanup, after we remove these trees, there's going to be growth. The grass will be growing a lot more frequent, obviously, so who's going to mow it in the future after we go in here and remove all these? Right now the park closes at 10, and we've already seen a lot of vandalism out there. Now we're opening it up to 24 hours, so if there are people out there late at night, the police can't do anything about it. And I just see problems there. I'm wondering, what that's going to add, what kind of strain to our police force already. And are they, it was mentioned that it's a half-mile trail. Are the police going to get out and walk to the back of the trail and actually check everything over? And what kind of burden is that going to add to them? Also, the garbage is already an issue, but who's going to pay for added dumpsters? Because campers are going to add more trash. Right now there's campgrounds in Leroy, Mahomet, DeWitt. I don't know how often they're getting used or whatever, but what would be wrong with using these? Or also the Boy Scout campground that I believe they already have out at Swisher Hill. Obviously we could open this up to the Boy Scouts if we did like a nature preserve, cleaned it up or something. I could see the Boy Scouts or maybe some special occasions coming out there, but opening it up to the public every day, I could see being a major problem. But and also as far as emergency vehicles getting back there and accessible to it, the only way to do it right now would be to come on private property. So unless they're going to open up the trails wide enough to get things back there, I'm wondering what that is too.
Thank you, sir. Dave Hildreth, you have the floor.
Good.
You're good?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Marty Price.
Yeah, I've been involved down at South Park with various activities now for about 25 years. I think this project is a very good project. I would like to see it go through. I do have 2 concerns. Number 1 As Mr. Garner just said, the park being closed at 10 o'clock, reopen at 6 a.m. We've had vandalism in the past with cars and stuff going back there, doing donuts in the soccer fields, baseball fields, everywhere else. Since the park's been locked down at 10 o'clock, we've not had that. One other concern I have, and I don't know if the sheet that you guys were given was the same that was in the journal, but in what used to be the old Circle Drive, up next to the soccer and BMX track, it says RV parking. That area right now is so congested, especially on a night where there's BMX and soccer at the same time. We're parked clear out in the other parking lot over by the baseball fields. I've just got a concern that that'll plug things up.
May I ask a quick question? Was the RV parking not in consideration, or is that in consideration?
Not currently, no.
Not currently.
Not currently. Okay.
Very good.
But that's my two concerns. I just wanted to voice my concerns. I think this is a very good idea. If we do this, I'll definitely be back there helping everyone. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Mindy Rick, you have the floor.
I live out at Prairie Ridge subdivision on Bluebell Lane, and speak for my husband and I, we're pretty unhappy to hear about the going ahead with the sidewalks to nowhere that's supposedly going to attract people to buy houses out there, and can't see that happening for a long time, as long as it took this subdivision to almost fill up. It's not completely filled up, of course, yet. And we really appreciate Councilman Testery coming out and speaking to most all of the residents. We really appreciate that. I do have a question for the remaining two of you.
Yes.
It seemed like his input was completely disregarded when just a few days later, there were engineers out on our streets. Boom, you were out there. The money was spent and our input wasn't considered. And the drainage issues are a huge deal. And I'd like to see things fixed that are broken before we put lipstick on a pig.
You want to address that? Or?
Go ahead. I'm still taking notes.
We're not going to do a sidewalk program out there, period. That's it. This is an extensive plan that we're putting together. So you're going to see us putting a bid for land. You're going to see us getting engineers to put in roads. You're going to see us getting engineers to put in sidewalks. You're going to see engineers coming out to put in the parks. We've already had a bid to get the sidewalks from inside of town out there. You're going to see more and more and more. Basically, what we're going to have to do, I believe, in the next, well, let me step back. I think right now, the biggest problem that Farmer City has right now is that we are a dying community. Our population can't support a grocery store. Our population can't support the school district. Our population can't support the football team, and we need people. Problem is, we don't have any houses. We don't have any homes to put it. We could market this community to Bloomington, to Champaign, but you just don't have the houses. So we need a subdivision. We have at least 3 spots on the map that we believe might be able to work. Prairie Ridge subdivision is the prime location, first and foremost. So I believe Stephanie kind of addressed this. She said that if the subdivision grew, then we would entertain sidewalks. Unless a house is going to break dirt, I assure you, we cannot spend any tip dollars out there putting any sidewalks in there. We're going to have to reserve those tip dollars to other locations that we can bring a subdivision in. So what you got, and I appreciate Scott what he did, and I think it's awesome that our councilmen are reaching out. But he kind of approached it as an either-or. It's not an either-or. And I love the fact that you came. I now have a list. That's next. How do I get your drainage, your water? I talked to Larry today about the water. We've got an idea and a plan. What's that going to cost? This is a project that's probably going to cost $3+ million. Okay? Yes. Or keep doing what you're doing. Dying. That's not good enough. So I assure you, no sidewalks unless Phase 2 starts. Once Phase 2 starts, I believe that it would be paramount, not only for the attraction, but also for a fulfillance of the original contract that was made with that Prairie Ridge subdivision. Fact is, it's by ordinance. As each block in Prairie Ridge subdivision reached 75% completion, the developer was, demanded to put in the sidewalks. They failed to do so. Now the taxpayer has to do it. And it's sad. So I heard through Scott, I took that definitely into consideration, but this is a much bigger project. One day, I hope in 6 months, did I go over my 5 minutes? I did. In 6 months to a year, I want to come back to Farmer City. Remember how I screwed up Casey's, where apparently I was too quiet. I want to come back to Farmer City and say, this is what we think is going to grow this community. And they can shoot it down, or we can go forward. So, that's my answer.
Guess my time's up.
Did you want a few more minutes?
30 seconds.
You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, if you would address the problems that are out there now, before we would have spent the $23,000
Here's, Mindy, really quick, help me out here, because this is the dilemma that I lose sleep over. Now, the $23,000, somebody much smarter than me said, before you build a project, you better count the cost. Sadly, today, it even costs to count the cost. And the sidewalks are going to cost, we're going to spend, I bet we spend 6 figures trying to get a plan together. Even the TIP projects, it's going to cost us thousands and thousands of dollars to get the new TIP. But if I have limited TIP dollars, and if I'm right, the number one goal is an increase in population, then that's my, if you will, that's all my eggs in one basket. So if I take those TIP dollars, why should I put them in your subdivision if it's not going to grow? I mean, I might as well I'll just be selfish. Why not my subdivision?
It's taken a long time.
And I agree with you, and we all ought to be sick and tired of that. That subdivision has been out there for years not growing, and this community continues to die. So I agree with you. It does take a long time, and your subdivision ought to be pretty pissed off about it. And it's time we do something. I agree. So I will work with you, and feel free to yell at me. And yes, you went over your time.
The sole reason I supported the survey was because I was told the survey had to be done to move forward on anything.
I watched the video.
And it wasn't going to get us sidewalks, but it was going to get us an avenue to move forward.
Well, we appreciate your...
And I do. I appreciate that, Scott. So, Mindy, I appreciate you speaking to us. So, the next person on the agenda is Brent. You lost 1 minute because I went over.
That's right. Everybody knows I'm not very long-winded. Yeah. Since we're talking about scouts and saying, what value that the project at South Park could have, I figured I'll speak directly to it. Scoutmaster for 6 years, involved with scouting here for 11 years now. There's a lot of different things we can do out there, and had I known that there was a big expanse of woods that the city owned out there already, I've been asking already to stick my nose out there, because there's a lot of things that we can do out there. One of the big values, I think, to us would more be along the lines of the Eagle projects, just because I got 2 boys right now that are in need of a project. It seems like with one of them that's needed it for over a year, that every time we bring up an idea, somebody else is already working on that project, and it's like, okay, well, there was another good idea. Apparently good enough that somebody else was going to do it. So there seems to be a wealth of ideas that we could, possibly do out there. We do have our Swisher Camp. We've improved the heck out of it over the last several years, and there's really nothing more we can do. Plus, we don't get any additional value out of improving our own camp. That's just for us. I kind of like the appeal of going and improving something that other people can use. Even if it's us taking ownership of it, going out, policing it, taking care of it. Swisher Hill's 20 minutes away. It sort of takes a little bit of production to get the food ready to get out there and all, and we're set. This is something we can drop in on the weekend a lot quicker and easier. Go out, take care of the camp, fix, build something. I'll have 2 more boys ready for Eagle projects next year, actually. So, it's a big step. It's a really big deal, and we've got a lot of boys that are getting to that level. There's other things out there. Honeysuckle, we are very, very familiar with that. Camp Ingersoll out by Linden Mills that we go to a lot of summers. That is one of the projects. It's a constant thing out there. Is tearing out honeysuckle. So you're right. It takes you got to cut her out and spray it as soon as you do, and you get rid of it. We're well familiar with that project, unfortunately. So there's things that we could learn and do and get service hours on. Every time a boy goes a rank, they have to get 6 to 8 hours worth of community service. So we ask around, and we're usually trying to do that for nonprofits first. And if it comes down to Just helping somebody who can't otherwise, clean the gutters or rake their leaves, we'll do it. But it'd be nice to be able to have other options, and it doesn't mean we're just doing it for the rank times, we'll just do it because, we can take ownership of an area and fix, and that works out too. So there's a lot of things that we can do with it. When you get to second class rank, there's a 5-mile hike. And right now when we do a 5-mile hike, typically go out to Swisher, we walk around to the bridge and kind of go out through the woods and back. Most of the time we're walking on country roads. I don't even mind if it's in a circle, but if you're walking in woods the whole time, I like that appeal a lot better. And that's for a lower rank scout for a second class, so it's something you don't want to have to do a big production, and that's what stopped us a lot of times from doing that, is you have to take it out to a camp and take away camp time to do that, when we could just drop in on a weekend and let's go get this hike out of the way for the second class guys. And typically a lot of other guys participated with that many times before. So just it's convenience for us. It's something that we would probably camp in maybe a couple of times a year. Again, we use Swisher. We camp about 10 times a year. One of them usually at Ingersoll or in Canada. And then, we did the fairgrounds once last year, which was fun. We'll probably try that again sometime next year. But it'd be nice to have another spot to drop into, because I know the Leroy Troop that we're good friends with use Howard Virgin Timber quite a bit to do primitive things. There's a badge, the Wilderness Survival Badge, is a primitive camp badge. So it's one that you have to use an improvised shelter, and having something close by is kind of nice, to be able to just do that without having the big production again and heading out to our other camp. So that's it.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, Elliot, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to voice a couple things about my support for the primitive campsite. First off, there's been a couple statements that were made tonight, and I think we have some of the answers, so I think I should at least be able to hear what they were. As far as emergency vehicles access, it's been the intent from day one to make the paths wide enough to get an emergency vehicle back there. There already has been a truck that has driven around there, and I've taken my tractor around there. It is wide enough in most areas. There are a few areas that still need to be worked on. That is part of the intent of the workday this weekend. So we fully intend to make it completely accessible for emergency vehicles at any time. It doesn't mean we want people driving around there, but emergency vehicles are one of them. Honeysuckle is a problem. I'm very well aware of it, as most of us are. We have a donation from a local vendor for a chemical that is specific to kill honeysuckle vines. That vine will not come back. If we flush cut it at the grade, spray it, that plant will not come back. And that is about one of the major ways that you have to control honeysuckle. Another one is there are property lines bordering, I think, on the south and the east. Most of us that have been out there volunteering our time, we know where the lines are, and we totally respect them, and it is in the rules to make sure that people, if they are out there utilizing the campground, you stay on the property that's owned by the city. Something very simple to do is the purple paint law. Illinois adopted a purple paint law. The landowners or the city or us, volunteers, whoever, if you purple paint a band 4 to 6 feet around a tree, that's statewide Illinois, that is private property. You're crossing on somebody else's boundaries. That's a cheap and simple solution versus posting a lot of signs, which that's fine too. So the purple paint law is a simple thing that they could do, so that will tell people you're crossing on somebody else's ground. Most of us that respect landowners' rights, we're not going to trespass anyway. You can put up 1,000 signs. If your intent is to cross on somebody else's ground, you're going to do it whether there's a sign there or not. Okay, and the last thing, I know there has been some issues out at the BMX shed getting broken into and some vandalism out on the track, which is very, very unfortunate. But if you flip it on the other side, maybe the fact that there are people out there sporadic times during the day, maybe on the weekends, maybe overnight, could that be a deterrent? So the kids, or I'm not saying whoever did it, if you're out there and you have an intent to damage or destroy somebody else's property, knowing that there's people walking around, maybe walking their dog, maybe, whatever, that could also be looked at as a deterrent. And they can say, you know what, I'm not going to take a chance on getting caught. And I know that the police force used to, most shifts, and I believe all 3 shifts, makes 2 appearances through the park at sporadic times during the evening. Not a lot was discussed on the not the reservation, but the system on how we plan on monitoring the camping, and that's later down the road. But if they choose to walk around it, wonderful. If they just want to look at the board and there's nobody on the board, theoretically there's not supposed to be anybody back there. So if there's vehicles there, that would be a clue. You might have to get out and walk because they're not authorized to be there. They're back there, could be doing something they're not supposed to do. And they could be doing that right now, whether there's a campsite out there or not. So I think a lot of the concerns are valid, but I think there's obviously ways to work around it where everybody comes up with an amicable solution so everybody's happy. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mike. Chris Knox, you have the floor.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
My name is Chris Knox. I actually live out there in the Prairie Ridge subdivision. I was probably one of the 6 first people to buy a house out there, so I've been out there.
What year was that?
I think 2002 is when we moved out there. So my daughter was about 3, I think. She's now 16. She goes to Blue Ridge High School. I will say this, it is the greatest neighborhood in the whole entire world. If you go out there, all the neighbors are friendly, everybody gets along, we do a lot of things together, we do a lot of projects together, we help each other out. One of our neighbors just had a roof, everybody kind of pitched in a little bit to help him put a new roof on his house. So it's a great, great thing. So I just want to tell you a little bit about my story when we first moved in. We bought the house from Zindars. And there was a lot of promises that was made to us when we first moved into the house. We were promised the park. And just the growth of the whole thing, how they were going to develop the next subdivision, the next subdivision, next subdivision. And I just saw a great potential of my property values growing and having a great investment. My property value has not grown since I've been out there. I just bought to get my taxes reduced, and I won. Based on the fact there's been a lot of sales out there that are basically selling houses out there that was exactly the same price they were when they first bought them in 2002 or when they first built them. So there hasn't been a lot of value increase out there at all. There's a lot of problems out there. I mean, the water retention thing. The city's been out there a couple times. They tried to mow it last year. Ticks got all over the guy left. Didn't finish mowing it. You guys came out there in the wintertime to try and did it. You mowed up a little bit. You still left some stuff. It just looks horrible. There is water that sits in that basin in June and July when everything else is dry. There's still standing water sitting in there sometimes. The mosquitoes are horrible. You can't even go to some of my neighbors' backyards without just getting tore up by mosquitoes. When we go home, we check ourselves for ticks. That is something that should be managed by the city and cleaned up. That water, there's no reason why to have standing water there. That should be all funneled out of there. There should be a tile that runs on the west end of that whole subdivision. There's houses, when that rain comes, the water runs off the field and fills up that whole thing, and there's people that have water to come all the way up into their dogs' pens because all that water is not tiled away. There was a lot of mistakes made out there, and it was done very cheaply. We have one storm drain that drains basically almost 3 blocks of concrete. We have a storm drain that goes down, is it Honeysuckle? At the other end, that drains all of George Rock and turns, and that water has to go all the way down to the other drain. It was just poorly done. So as you guys develop the next section, you better put quality at the top line. Because if you don't put quality at the top line, you're going to have problems and then nothing will ever grow. Now, when I talked to old council members, when they were talking about that subdivision, they sat around and said, well, we can't have building codes because it'll be too expensive and nobody can buy the house. Well, I just put a new roof on my house probably 3 years ago after owning a house for 10 years because there was no great codes out there. No one looked out for me. I was a young buyer. No one looked out for me on that house when I actually purchased a house because I'm kind of a naive 30-year-old guy who's what you guys want to come into this community to help grow this community and be a part of this community. And I had no one looking out for me because the quality was horrible. You're talking bad drainage. Every house out there does need a pump. And as you guys move on, you need to almost best to specify there needs to be a pump in the crawl space. I mean, there's some codes out there that you have to do. I still don't understand why. I mean, I understand that you guys basically say we had to pay $23,000 to come in there so we go to the next phase, but I don't understand why that wasn't even in the original plans. Why do we even have to have somebody come out there and survey
Why
if it's
were
a
sidewalks
developer?
not? Sadly-
That's not a question yet. I'm not asking a question yet because I still want to talk.
Very good.
But, you know what I'm saying right there is the fact that if there's a plan and the developer builds a plan, all that should be in the original plan. Why are we spending extra money after we should have already had a great plan? I mean, that's one of my things that I ask all you guys. I mean, it's our tax money. It's my TIF money goes out there. I think $3 or something like that goes to the school district. All my taxes go to this TIF. And I really don't understand TIFs. I don't know where the money goes. I don't understand how it rolls over to the new TIF. I don't understand all that kind of stuff. But, you know, a lot of money is sitting into this TIF and nothing's being used to really benefit the community. And we just spent $23,000 to go something that should have already been in the plan and we shouldn't even have had to do it.
10 seconds, sir.
Okay.
Did you have a question?
No, I just had a comment. That's really what I want to say is that you guys really need to look out there and really fix it up because you got great people and you don't want those people to leave.
I agree. I agree. The answer to your question was it was in the original, or at least your statement, it was in the original plan. In fact, concrete sidewalks shall be provided by the developer along side streets of all subdivisions unless the council shall determine. We did not determine.
So then why are we suing the developer?
Exactly.
Why are we going after the developer for
It
money
is-
to come back?
Amen. Amen. And
We should not
there's
be paying this developer who did a horrible job.
agreed. And unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I asked too. Huh?
He is still under the TIF.
You're preaching to the choir. You're
Why are we
preaching.
hiring
You are the
lawyers?
choir. You need to take the action.
Why are we hiring lawyers to go after it? I mean, why are we paying a guy for something he hasn't done and we're still paying him?
You want to address that now or later?
What was the question? I've got a lot of feedback, sir, on what we would like to do out there, because to me, George Rock is the gateway, obviously, for anything that's ever going to happen out there. So, 2 years ago, I went out there, I hired Farnsworth Group to create a sidewalk from the subdivision into Farmer City. I'd always heard that this is what the people wanted. I brought it to the city council. I had a firm commitment from Farnsworth what it would take. However, the citizens that live along Illinois Route 54 said, we don't want a sidewalk out here along the front, put it back there in that cornfield. I myself don't believe that that is a safe thing to do, is to have young kids walking in a cornfield or having combines and trucks and everything driving across our sidewalk. So we could still have that sidewalk. There was an issue brought up about the water quality out there. That water does not loop back into the community. Unfortunately, the developer put in a dead-end line. We could run the water back down Illinois Route 54, tie it back in. You would always have fresh water, and then we could put the sidewalk on top of the water main. We could kill two birds with one stone. As far as the sign, I've never had anybody really come in, say anything about a sign. I think that is such a small thing in the grand scheme of things to worry about. But if you saw the meeting that we had maybe a month ago, I talked about taking down those industrial-looking streetlights, putting up ornate streetlights out there, and we wanted to do the sidewalks. We want that to look nice because we are getting close to opening up another part of the subdivision. So we want to make this thing look attractive. We want everybody to be happy out there. As far as the playground, you could put a playground out there tomorrow, but we have somebody interested in a large parcel out there, which is commercial. They'd like to put a business out there, bring in new jobs. So we don't want to go out there and put up a playground and then find out that we put the playground in a part that they may want or need. So there are some issues still going on, but it's our thoughts and our plans to want to make that subdivision better.
Do I have a chance to ask a couple other questions?
You may, yes, sir.
On that whole situation there, like I said, when I moved out there, we were promised that area where the basin is to kind of be a park. So I don't really know how you can rezone that without having to bring back to the council and us be able to fight that. Because I would fight that. Because it was something that was promised to me when I moved in. back to my quality issue, is we had the doctor's office moving out there. Great for the whole entire community. All right? They moved in and they built 3 trailers and they put it on a lot right across the house from me. They have a rock driveway, which is totally against our ordinance. We have to have concrete out there, and I brought that up to Stuart Drake several years ago, and nothing happened. So I understand it's quality that you guys got to look at, and that's really what you basically need. And like I said, it's in the original plans. We should be going after the developer to pay back some of the money that you've already taken.
I think that was the original question, is why aren't we using our attorneys to go after the developer?
Yes, that was the original question.
Okay, hold on a minute. The doctor's office is going to concrete their entire driveway. They've come to us for TIF funds, so that's going to get taken care of, okay?
Are we paying that out of our money? My taxes are paying.
It'll pay part of it because that...
Why are we paying my taxes that should be building in my neighborhood to pay a private industry to build, to put a sidewalk?
Well, that's how the TIF works. It's just like in the downtown TIF. That's how it worked. Store A and Store B all got money out of the TIF. That's how it works, sir.
Do they pay that back to the TIF?
No.
What happens is when TIF expires, you'll pay the same taxes. It'll just go to different schools. So what the TIF is to be used for is to be development in that community. Now anybody can apply. You as an individual can apply, especially if you're in the TIF district, can apply to put a park in your subdivision. You can apply for that.
Because we actually apply to get new roofs on our houses.
You can apply for anything, I guess. I don't know if you're going to necessarily get that.
Would that be something to consider?
Huh?
That's what I was saying is if the TIF money is there for us to use to better our community.
What will happen, sir? What will happen with the TIF money is, and there was a great presentation. We have it on videotape. I would highly recommend going back. We have, if you could even repost that, I would appreciate that one. We had a gentleman come in and give a presentation on TIF. Here is my concern. We have about $1 million in that TIF fund. So we're going to have to set precedents on what's most important. Continuing growth of a particular area. That's where we're going to have to direct those TIF dollars. So I believe that Prairie Ridge Subdivision is the best place to at least expand. If somebody comes and says, I need a roof, that means I would take those TIF dollars and put it on their roof as opposed to new sewage for the whole place. So we're going to have to make decisions on where those dollars end up going. But go ahead, sir.
As far as the playground, I think that would be a crappy location, sir, to put a playground. That entire area needs to be cleaned out. When that was developed, then obviously the drain is too high. That's why water...
I was told that the playground was going in the basin. I was told the playground was going where the doctor's office is.
No, playground was never going where the doctor's office is. It's back there towards the basin.
Larry, could you answer the question on the lawsuit?
On the attorney?
Yes.
On the attorney?
Yes.
Why aren't we going after him?
Yes.
I guess there's a couple different reasons. The best reason would be is that I've never been directed to get a hold of our city attorney and see what the legalities of whether sidewalks were put in or anything like that.
Larry.
It's a very old agreement, and so I don't know that that we can really do anything legally. So, I mean, I can check into it. I'll gladly check into it, and then that way I have a good answer.
You would need directive from us, and I would have a few questions before. For example, are we going to the same person asking for land? So, I applaud that as an option, especially if there's continuing obstacles. So, we need to move on. So, sir, by the way, thank you. Very well presented, and I appreciate you, and I hope we can attract other 30-year-olds just like yourself.
Actually, now I'm 47.
No. Hold on, let me find out. I do believe, were you number, I believe he was there any other public comments that people fill out sheets that I did not read off? Appreciate you all. We're going to continue on with the meeting. We move on to the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Call it.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Testori?
Yes.
Motion carried.
There being no unfinished business, we move to section 3, new business.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 956, authorize the execution of the IMLRNA minimum maximum contribution agreement.
Second it.
Any discussion?
So really,
This is our annual renewal for our liability insurance through Illinois Risk Management. Just so you know, there was an increase this year, but it's the smallest increase in the last 7 years. It only went up 1%.
Good.
So, if we there's an option, if we pay for it all at once, we get a break, a discount, pretty good discount of about $20,000. So instead of making 2 payments, so that's why we're bringing it at you one lump sum. It is a budgeted item.
Yes. Call it.
Vaughn?
yes.
Testori?
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2015-31, resolution for the issuance of a Class A1 liquor license.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
Is she here?
I am.
There you go. All right.
Brenda, would you like to speak? Although you're not on the agenda, we're going to make an exception. You have at least, I'll give you at least 5.
Okay, I'm here to reapply for a liquor license again. I would have been at the last meeting, but I misunderstood apparently something, so here I am tonight. Would like to apply for it in order to continue with my business.
I have trouble hearing you.
I would like to reapply for the liquor license to reinvent my business, to make it grow, try to go a different way, try to have different options for people that don't want to buy flowers, because the flower industry is fading fast. So I could do gift baskets, I could do wine. I can't even get to the gaming part of it until I get the liquor license. I don't even know if I can get the games, because I have to get the liquor license first. So I am here to re-request the liquor license.
Are there any questions?
So one of the first things you want to do then is to be able to include the liquor in your baskets, things like that, right? So be closed bottles of wine, things like that.
Oh, sure, yes. I can't do that legally.
Right. No, that's. I like that.
Are you intending to compete with the bars? Is that the intent?
I am not competing with people at the bars, no, absolutely not. The people that would come to me would not go to the bars.
Well, I hear that. I've been hearing that, but I don't know who those people are. So you're drawing from outside the residence?
There'll probably be quite a few people from outside of this county that would come. But there's also a lot of people here in town that would come that do not go to the bars and do not go to the truck stops.
So your primary intent is to get the gaming license more than the alcohol?
I would like to do the gaming, yeah, absolutely. But I don't know that I can even do it, because I have to have the liquor license first to even go that far.
Is your primary hope for the liquor license, and then the gaming would be an additional, I don't know, extra?
Absolutely, yes.
So you would not be serving, you would be selling bottles of wine, but not necessarily having an establishment where they're drinking?
Right.
Okay.
I just have to be able to offer it. If somebody comes in and wants it, I have to be able to offer it, a wine and beer, not anything hard. So, but right now I can't even do gift baskets or anything like that with any alcohol, or even creamers that have alcohol in them. I can't do that.
I don't know if I can say something, but I would definitely go for it. Because people that would like to go and have a glass of wine.
Thank you.
Well, the problem I'm having is everything I've looked at and research says that this town is saturated with liquor, and it's saturated with games. So there's on paper, there's no benefit. And I'm asking you, I guess I'm asking what your intent is. It's just,
My intent is definitely to make some money, but it's also to bring more business into this community instead of losing another business.
okay.
I definitely don't want to lose your business. I think you are definitely an awesome addition to Main Street. I do appreciate that. I will tell you one of my there's a couple of struggles I have, and I'm not close to it. My primary struggle is the way again, we are a nation of laws, not of men. So my struggle is going to be first and foremost with the way the ordinance reads. And I'll just read it out loud, and I'll tell you where my struggle is. It says, there shall be issued in the city no more than a total of 2 Class A and or Class A1 license. So what the lawyer, and if the lawyer can't figure it out, they're letting a bozo like us try to figure it out. They're saying because of the term and or, this needs to come before us. But the way that I read it is that 2 is emphasized. There's a total of 2 Class A's and or Class A1 licenses. That one is plural, which seems to indicate you can have a Class A, another Class A, or a Class A and a Class A1, or 2 Class A1s. Either way, they're accounted for. So that's where I'm struggling at the most part. Additionally, where I'm struggling is, at least the report that you brought me with, is the saturation level. And I have had private meetings with the bar here at City Hall, and they're telling me that they are struggling to stay in business.
Can I?
Yes, please. Help me.
I threw that section out, Mayor, that you're questioning to the city attorney, the complete section. And so because of the and or, it's out there. So it's out there, it is available.
The lawyer said that the license is available.
Because of the and or. So
does she qualify for her license?
She currently meets all the requirements.
Then I don't even know why we're voting on it. So, call it.
Testori?
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Han?
Yes.
Motion carried.
You went over a minute. A lot of drunk flower carrying.
You're on record.
You know what's going to happen tomorrow when I get torn up by everybody in town. These people will be drunk at the flower shop.
Better get your wife some flowers.
Yeah, I better buy her. My wife, by the way, we got an assortment. My wife's been in the hospital, knee surgery, and the assortment came from you. Thank you. It was somebody else purchased it, obviously, but it was absolutely beautiful. We do thank you. There was no wine.
Next time.
But next time. All right, go.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2015-32, accepting and placing on file the financial statements and supplemental information and report of independent certified public accountants for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2015.
Second it.
Discussion.
We're just putting a record in place.
Putting the audit on record.
All right.
This is a good reference tool to go back over and over, especially when you go to the budget as well. So.
And I will tell you that according to the auditors, there were no discrepancies, no red flags.
So,
call it.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Han?
yes.
Testori?
Yes.
Motion carried.
City manager's report.
I've only got a couple of things since it's been a kind of a lengthy meeting here, but there was a couple of different areas where we were having some drainage issues. I know that Councilmember Testori had some people questioning him about drainage. We've had Mr. McKinley up on the north end concerned about drainage. So I had Don Adams from the Farnsworth Group come down and look at 3 different specific areas here in town. And down on East High Street, down by the welding shop, back when we had that monsoon, back in June, July. His building flooded. So in order of West Market, that is our priority because some houses are getting some water in the basements there. We're going to try to come up with a drainage plan there. From there, we'll go north to find out what can be done up there. That one is going to be very extensive and very expensive. Long distance to try to get rid of that water. And the last one will be down in East High. And then the only other thing is that information, there's two things. You'll see that there is a letter that was received from the Chamber of Commerce. That letter came to me. I forwarded it to the mayor and I gave you all copies of it too. Not necessarily for discussion tonight, but you see that it has to deal with Heritage Days. Give that some consideration because at some point that's going to have to be addressed. And then the last thing is that you'll see that at the last meeting there was some discussion about ordinance violations and whether the police department's doing their job, whether we need to rewrite the whole thing. And you'll see that in the list that was provided to you, that the police department's actually being very aggressive on tackling ordinance violations. And now we have 5 different residential properties that are abandoned that we are going after as well. The chief of police and myself did look, and in one particular section, I believe that there's probably about 15 areas that need to be rewritten. So if you look at your complete code, that thing needs to be completely readdressed, and it's not something that you can do in a 2-week period. So that's going to be a long-term project to get that redone. Then we can send it off to the codifiers and have it all updated. So that's all I had, fellas.
Any questions to the city manager and his report?
When it says abandoned and inoperable, that's the house is abandoned and the vehicle's inoperable, or the
No,
vehicle's
those would be
abandoned?
vehicles.
Okay. What makes a vehicle abandoned?
The length of time that it's set, one particular location, and never been moved.
On somebody's property or on public property?
Well, I don't have specifics there, so out on the right-of-way, an abandoned vehicle is 12 hours. Up on someone's property, it could be 7 days. So.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Just for clarification on the letter from the chamber, it's not necessarily that the chamber has make sure I read this right, not that the chamber has any problem with Heritage Days except for placement. So they'd like to have the downtown a little more open during the week. That's my understanding.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Check.
Non-agenda items?
I agree with you. Non-agenda items, I don't right now because of the...
I can't remember what I had. It's been a long meeting.
But good.
We bounced around because we did the South Park, and then we talked about the subdivision, and then we talked about South Park. And so to get back to South Park there real quick, and I do know that with the honeysuckle, and it was addressed. But everything I see, it's supposed to be taken out and destroyed, burned. It's one way to get rid of it. As far as the Widowmakers, I just got a text from a tree cutting service, and they're going to go out there and take care of any of those trees that are out there. The camping was initially thought about, RVs. That plan has been nixed. That's a whole other level of licensing through IDPH. We have been in contact with IDPH, Scott has and I have, so we know what requirements we need to take care of. I've talked to the chief of police who's standing in the other room about any type of law enforcement action out there. So that's up to him to come up with as far as what action he's going to take. And one of the most important things is that we've invested a lot of money in the soccer fields, the city has, and private funds were used out there as well. One of the very first things that Scott and I had discussed is that we can get a gate across the lane that goes back in there, and that'll block off any vehicular traffic. So that's a simple fix. Obviously, we don't want the soccer fields tore up, and we don't want the BMX fields tore up. So pedestrians out there walking around, that's going to be hard to control. Whether the park is officially closed or not. And as far as the park closing at 10 o'clock, we can bring that back to the council and amend that ordinance if needs to be, so we can allow overnight camping.
I
So
have-
that would be after the fact, because right now they're seeking permission to go ahead and
I've been in primitives before where it still closes the park at 10, but you're in location.
Correct.
So, I mean, it's like little lights and then it's down.
Yeah, a lot of state parks are set up that way.
I mean, there were a couple of individuals, and I thought the presentation was well presented, and they had some legitimate concerns on the campgrounds. However, as I'm listening to the objections, it sounds to me as if these are possible things that we're just going to have to address if we haven't addressed it already. Burning, for example. Obviously, if there's a no burn in the city, there probably should be a no burn out there. We're going to have to do some regulation of this park. When it comes to homeless individuals, we know that can be an issue. There's going to have to be some regulation. But with all of that, unless I hear of any major objections, I'm not seeing a reason to stop the progress that we have going on this weekend, but just keep in mind that there's going to be quite a bit of things that are going to pop up with the addition of a primitive campground.
And I believe that was the objective tonight, to either tell these folks move forward or tell these folks it's time to stop. So I do believe that one way or the other, the council as a whole, or however that plays out, they need to know tonight what is going on with the campsite.
Are there any objections to moving forward? Thank you, guys. Move forward with it. Entertain a motion to adjourn. You had another one? I'm sorry.
I would like to see a more detailed plan on the park on how to address the concerns. I'd like to see policy on it.
I don't think that that's going to be from them. That's got to come from us. I mean,
I think Scott's got a pretty good handle on it.
No, he does, but what you pointed out is, and we can let Scott speak to this, but what you pointed out is a fact. Okay, Scott, one day he's healthy, but in 20 years he's dead, or 40 years. So, whatever. But the point is, he's not here forever. It is something. It's just like the Wheelan Park project. We put that in. We came in. Of course, we raised the funds to put it in. But after the fact, every year $2,000 worth of wood chips are there. The ones who are going to enforce the regulations are going to be city officials and what have you. So I think that maybe we could sit down with our volunteers to help put these regulations together. It's going to have to be a city project.
I guess what my impression was, this was approved by a previous city council to do something like this, and I found out about it on Facebook, which was kind of a lousy way to find out about it, and that was 1 week ago. So here we are moving forward. I'm uninformed, so I'd like to see more detail on this as it develops.
May I ask a question? Does the city have liability insurance on the volunteers that will be working out there on the next couple
Yes.
weekends?
Yes.
Yeah,
Anytime we have anybody in the park, either they're volunteering or at play, they are covered through the city's liability insurance.
My other request, no fires out there for campgrounds.
That is going to have to be something to discuss, I would imagine, in a primitive setting.
So currently, right now, they have free range until you guys decide to come back and make some...
No, right now they have free range to begin the progress of cleaning the area up.
Camping's not allowed.
Camping, I would say that camping is not allowed at this time until we... Obviously, they're going to be staying the night. I imagine they're staying the night this weekend and what have you, but yes, we need to move forward to have some sort of regulations in place.
Question for you.
Yes.
We do have a prairie. It's going to be very expensive to reestablish it for the federal program.
Say that again?
Our prairie,
Yes.
okay, dry grass. If we have a fire, that could take out that whole prairie. Okay?
Yeah, there's...
That is like, yeah, but we have to be very careful on how we burn it. You guys have never seen how fast a
You're
prairie
right.
burns.
On that note, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Call it.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Testori?
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Motion carries.